Okay, so my name is Riki Hayashi. I'm a level 3 judge from Portland, Oregon. I'm also the Northwest United States Regional Coordinator.
All right.
Not all of you clapping are from the Northwest, but I appreciate that. So, it's actually called the Sabermetrics of Feedback. The focus is on reviews, but I've tried to rebrand the last couple of years from just reviews to feedback because I want to emphasize that it is an entire process that you go through when you give feedback to another judge. And it's not just about the end product and about the review. So that's just a small thing. And I'm not ready for this in terms of presentation. I was asked to do this yesterday. I've been working on these numbers and putting together this presentation, so it's a work in progress. I apologize for that, but hopefully we can make this good, refine the process, and I would appreciate feedback from you because I will be continuing to present this and refine my statistics in the future. So first off, just basics. At judge.wizards.com, you can enter reviews of other judges. That's what this is about. You go there and you type in someone's name and say, hey, you did a great job at this event. Try to work on this for next time. The sabermetrics aspect is, sabermetrics is a word, it's a term that comes, I believe it's from baseball originally, and it deals with statistics, because in the game of baseball, there's a lot of stats. You have hits, runs, home runs, RBIs, ERA, WHIP. And these stats have really evolved over the last 20 years or so, I would say. Because back in the day, back before I started watching baseball, or just about when I started watching baseball, all people cared about was batting average and home runs and runs, like the very basics. And as the sabermetric statistical revolution came along, people started to tinker around with the numbers and find different things and find different ways of expressing what the ball players were doing on the field. Just as a very basic example, we all know what batting average is, right? It's hits divided by at-bats. So it's kind of a numerical expression of how often someone gets a hit in baseball. That's a pretty good indicator of how good of a player they are as a hitter. However, that stat actually leaves out some very interesting things. For example, walks. If you take 4 balls and advance to first base on a walk, most of the time that's just as good of a hit. That's not expressed in batting average. Sacrifice flies and sacrifice bunts. So that's when you lay down a bunt and you advance someone, a runner, from first to second, and you're out. You're out as a batter, but you've sacrificed your at-bat to get someone further, to help the team. So when you do that, that doesn't count as an official at-bat. So that gets taken out of the numbers. So there's a little, batting average is not this full expression of how successful someone is in the game of baseball, which is why sabermetricians have really advocated for a stat called on-base percentage, which does take these things into consideration. It takes into consideration walks. Instead of at-bats, it counts plate appearances, which does not subtract the sacrifice stats. So it's something where a player might have a batting average of 300. That's considered a good batting average. But if they don't draw a lot of walks and their on-base percentage is only 310, that's actually below average. So here you have someone who gets a lot of hits, but is actually below average at getting on base. So that's just the basics of why people do this and what kind of research they do and try to figure out what the numbers actually mean. So I'm very passionate about feedback and reviews, and it's one of the few things in the judge program where we have our numbers, because when you enter a review on your profile at judge.wizards, I'm going to call it DCIX because that's just the shorthand. The X is for exams because that's what one of the original functionalities, and it still is. So at DCIX, when you enter a review, if you write a review of someone else, it shows up on your profile. It says review written 1, and then the other person they get a review of it. Let me pull it up real quick and see what the actual words are.
What are some concerns or some potential objections that an organizer might have?
It sounds like Nicholas Sagan. It is not Tim Shields. I could be wrong, but I know both those guys. I've slept in the same bed with Nicholas Sagan. As long as we're on that, I will say that I have not had the opportunity to sleep in the same bed with Tim Shields. So Tim, if you're watching this, maybe next time. Okay, so how it's expressed is it says reviews and then parentheses reviewer, which means you are the reviewer, how many reviews you've written, and then reviews parentheses subject, how many times you have been the subject of the review. And for example, I just pulled up Toby Elliott here because when you when you look at the full range of judges, it sorts by level and then by last name. So he is the top of the list, and he has written 136 reviews and received 73. So that's a number that we have available, and I have started to do research, in particular on the L3 process and what reviews mean in terms of this process, because the reason I focused on this is it's the one area in the judge program where there's kind of a hard requirement. You know, if you want to make L3, you are required to write 10 reviews of various characteristics, people in region, out of region, etc. So I wanted to focus on that because that's where it matters. Those of you who are L2 and want to be L3, you have to write reviews, so you're interested in this. And I took a look and compiled, I think I've got about like 95% of the numbers on people who have advanced to L3 since Judge Program was implemented. Or, I'm sorry, DCIX, Judge Center. That was in September of 2005. So there were reviews in the Judge Program prior to that. I wasn't really privy to them, but like Stephen Zwanger, right? You were in the Judge Program back then. You had to do paper reviews at events and just you handed them in and they got emailed. Okay, first off, they're anonymous. Usually. Usually.
Put your name on them, but most people send them anonymous.
Right. But you had to write it on paper, and then, but it did get put online somewhere.
As far as I can tell, they never got sent anywhere.
Well, I've seen actually web pages of old judge reviews prior to DCIX. At least some of them got compiled and put somewhere. But it's not something that's readily accessible or easy to compile information. So I'm only concerned here with the DCIX era, so September 2005 to present. I found most of the information on L3, people who have advanced to L3 in that time frame. And I put some numbers together, and it's very interesting. So, first off, let me just... So reviews as reviewers. So the L3 candidate, or in this case the L3, on the date that they certify for L3, when they pass the panel, how many reviews on average of these like 100 and some people do you think that they wrote? 12? 30? 20? 20 to 27?
21.7.
21.7, okay. Well, I am included.
Is the mean or the
But it's average. It's the mean. Yes, the mean. So we heard a range 12 to I think what 30? Was that the highest? Anyone want to go higher than 30? All right. The average was 40. And in case you're interested in these things, the median was 35. So I think, I don't know, does that mean that the outliers are pulling the average up? Standard deviation, 19. So don't blame me, actually blame the feedback list.
What, you write 500 before you did that?
I'm not going to tell you. But the important thing here is, I think the mentality, like Alex is, you're fairly new to the program. You're level 2 last year, right? And so you've only been around for about a year or two. Jeff's been around a little longer, so he's got a different perspective. So that, I think, is actually a very good indicator of one of the things I've personally been worried about is that we're not writing as many reviews, and I'll probably do some research on that too. But there's definitely been a downturn, and I think that shows in the guesses between you two. But also the other thing is, it's okay if there's a certain amount of downturn, because you only need to have written 10, minimum, to advance to L3. So this number 40, it's influenced by history, I think. It's influenced by outliers. This isn't an important number for you to consider quite yet, because all you have to do is write the minimum, right? Just write the 10. You probably want to write more than that because practice is important. But you do not have to aspire to these heights. Okay? What I do think you need to aspire to, and this is going to be interesting, is reviews written of you as the subject, reviews subject. So let's take some guesses as to people when they passed L3, how many reviews do you think they had received on average?
50.
6, 25, 50. Anyone higher than 50? So 6? 75. That's not a real guess. Chris McGuire is just trolling me. Alright. Average is 31. That's the mean. The median is 32. Standard deviation is 11. So that gives you an idea of kind of what you need, what you need to get to L3, and that's an interesting thing to say, right? Because you need to write reviews, but what do I mean by you need to receive reviews? What's that? The thing is that you individually are obviously in control of your own destiny when you write reviews. You decide how many you want to write, who you want to write them of. You can't control, really, whether you receive reviews. I've been blogging a little bit about it. Anyone know the link? Magic Judge Blogs. Blogs.magicjudges.org/feedback is my blog, and I'm starting to share some stats and write about techniques for feedback and reviews. But here's the thing, so you cannot control really whether someone writes a review. I've been blogging recently and I say one of the things you gotta do is ask. That's the best thing. Hey, Jeff, we worked together this weekend. We didn't actually. I would really appreciate a review. That's one step you can take to try to receive a review. And you can do stuff like follow up, write a review of Jeff. That's going to apply some pressure on him and be like, oh man, I feel guilty. No, it doesn't work. So you can't control it. Why does this matter? Because it's the collective, consciousness of the judge program is what is expressed here in this number, 30, 31, 32. this is what the judge program thinks of you in a way, right? When you receive reviews. And why is it that L3s receive this number of views, which is a very high number? I think many of you here, even the ones who feel like you're getting close to L3 or on this path, you're below that number, right? I think I talked to Patrick Cool. He is a great judge. Many people think this guy's gonna be right? Good sport here. Many people think Patrick Cool is going to be an L3. Like, he's from Minnesota. Fantastic work. RC, Stephen Briggs thinks highly of it. I think highly of it. He's only received 8 reviews. And that, I think, is going to become a huge problem for him. Not because he's not a good judge, but because we are not expressing something to him as a program. We are not feedbacking with him. Just because he's a great judge and he's got that L3 smell to him, as people used to say back in the day. Yeah, because you've been working on the floor too long and haven't showered in 3 days. Even though he's got that smell to him, it's important to get feedback because you're not perfect. There are things that you are probably not doing correctly or to the best of your abilities. And it's important to get that feedback and be aware of things and try to improve. Like, that's what this is about. It's about improvement. Feedback is about improvement. So, I've had talks with Patrick, and he's like, I need more. Like, I need to know what I'm doing, if I'm doing something wrong, if I'm doing something right. Like, he is hungry. And so this number, I think, expresses that hunger that he feels. Like, he is not getting enough feedback. So, we talk a lot online, and I've been sharing some of my findings and some of my advice to him. And that's the thing with a lot of you guys, I think. You're reaching this point. I see a lot of faces out there of people I believe should be or can be level 3, like very, very good judges. And as a program, as a judge program, I don't think right now we are doing our best to help you get there. Part of it is just the events. The number of events has exploded in the last 3 years. We've gone from 15 to 20 Grand Prix in a year to 40, right? And many of you have become road warriors and go to Grand Prix 2-3 times a month, maybe even all 4 weeks. And reviews and feedback is something that is falling on the wayside because we can't keep up. It used to be the case when I first started, I was considered a road warrior. And you know what I did? I went to a Grand Prix every month. That's it. There was no Star City Open Series. Maybe if there was a PTQ, I would go to the PTQ as well. So I did a Grand Prix and a PTQ in 1 month. Next month, no Grand Prix because there's none on the schedule in the US. So maybe I didn't have an event next month. And then the following month, there's probably another Grand Prix. I went to that. So in 3 months, I had 2 Grand Prix and 1 PTQ. That gave me, and in general, judges, a lot of downtime between events to have that bandwidth to sit down and write a review. And that's what I think is going on here now. You go to a Grand Prix and you're like, you take your notes, you're like, all right, I got some notes, and I got to fly home, do my laundry, go to my job, take care of some minor errands at home, and then I got to fly to the next Grand Prix. And I didn't have time to write that review. And now I'm at another Grand Prix, and I got some more notes. Oh crap! Now I've got like 5 reviews that I really want to write, but I got to go head judge the Star City Open now next week, and the schedule is brutal. Let me tell you that. It is brutal, and I completely understand why this is happening. So, I don't know. I think maybe we should take some more breaks, not go to as many events. Oh my God, did Riki just say that? But looking at the trends and looking at what's going on, it's not always the best thing, like, to jam multiple events in a row. experience. Experience on the floor can matter, but I don't think it matters maybe as much as some people think. And yeah, it's fun. It's fun to go see your friends, and it can be profitable, right? Like you can get some judge flows and make some money. But in terms of your growth as judges, in terms of aspirations for L3, I think multiple events in a row like that can really hurt you. Like it hurts your ability to reflect on things, to be able to give feedback and to receive feedback, because we're all doing it and we're all too busy. Andres had a question?
Yeah, do you think that we have a large enough pool of level 2 and level 3 judges to be able to have judges essentially take more time off? Like, are there enough judges who are applying to Grand Prix and being denied that we could be circulating in other judges when we're not?
Okay, so the question was, do we have a large enough pool of L2s and L3s to be able to staff these events and give ourselves breaks, right?
The increasing size.
Right,
Yeah.
with the size of the Grand Prix. My answer would be yes, there is a large enough pool. And I'm gonna take a peek here because I was the staff manager for Grand Prix Sacramento, and I had to staff this event. And so I'm gonna take a quick look at the applications page for the event because luckily you can compile some numbers. I can start looking into that maybe. Review application. Of course, the Wi-Fi lets you down just as you get to the last page. So, Grand Prix Sacramento. Total applications, 123. And what we're interested here, level 2 applications, 80. Oh, sorry, yeah, level 2 applications, 80. I accepted 60 of those. So 20 L2s who applied did not work the event. And this is updated with all of the late ads that I had. I added them to the event as accepted. So this includes the late ads. So this is the final number, basically, of judges we had. So there were still 20 L2s who applied for this event who did not work it. So and in some cases those are people maybe who are not as experienced. Just because, I don't know them as well. The RC or the head judge who also comments didn't know them as well, so wasn't able to advocate for them or didn't think that they might be appropriate for the floor of the Grand Prix yet or something like that, right? But we can be getting those people experience. We could be rotating more. So yeah, I think there are enough. Maybe
like a reserve of 20 to 30 judges or so is enough to keep that pool.
Yeah, and I think we should be rotating more.
And I think that a lot of Grand Prix have a higher ratio of applications to acceptances.
Yeah, I mean,
This was a big one.
this was a big one, and I added a lot late, so I'm not sure. I don't remember what the number was that I accepted initially. I think it was obviously much higher. Yeah, Bears?
So this is anecdata. There's a saying in the stats world that the plural of anecdote is not data. So obviously, one thing is a great data point. I'm not trying to deny that.
Yeah.
But the other thing I want to add is that you say there are 20 people who apply and there are L2 in this rare or and things like that. I've actually turned down half of the L2s because I have 4 slots or 5 slots, and I get 10 or 8 hours.
Yeah, and you're from up in Connecticut, New England, so there's a higher concentration there. People can, if you have PT Good Connecticut, come from Boston, New York, Albany, so yeah.
We even have the same problem in Minneapolis.
Minnesota, same problem for PT Kids? Yeah, I think Rob McKenzie posted somewhere that he turns down half of the applicants, many of them L2s. Did you have a question, comment?
Oh, yeah, I was kind of on that thing. Yeah, I'm doing an event for my L3, and I have to decline all the L2s, and we might even have to decline L3.
Okay. Why not
Just to get experience for the lower level, or the less experience.
Yeah. and that's good.
Do you think it's on the judges or the tournament organizers? Lots of judges, even after hearing this presentation, I'm sure are still going to fight everything.
Is it on the judges or on the tournament organizers? That's a very good question.
If the tournament organizer knows the judge is playing every single time, should he start denying this person to get more experience or less experience?
Yeah, I mean, as the staff manager and as I had communications with Tim Shields, John Sasso, the tournament organizers, obviously we want to staff a good event. And when you see a name that you've seen before and you trust, you just want to automatically and be like, yeah, this guy's good, let's put him on. That's a very good point. It's something maybe we need to think about from that perspective as well, not just from the judges saying, maybe I need a little more of a break. Patrick?
I was just going to say, we ask, is it on this person or is it on this person? I think, as with a lot of things in our program, it becomes the responsibility of both you as a judge and the people you're interacting with to make sure that the interaction is beneficial for everyone involved. So if you as a judge don't want to just go blanket apply to everything, not give yourself time to process what's going on with an overabundance of events pushing the year. But that doesn't mean you don't want to apply to the event that you want to go to. Like you apply to what you think is a reasonable schedule for yourself. Give yourself the time that you need, and the tournament organizers still should be looking at, like you said, is this person just at every event ever, or trying to be at every event ever? It's a split responsibility, I think, between the different people interacting on this.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I declined Jeff Foster initially from the event because he goes to a lot of events, and regionally, for California and even some of my guys in the Northwest, I felt there were people there that needed the opportunity more. We ended up adding Jeff Foster because he was available and we had this late need, and I really appreciate that. And I hope he doesn't hold it against me. I wasn't mad at all. Where I did take that into consideration, maybe we need to take into consideration more and actually look at what's going on, look at the figures, and try to find a better balance. Yeah.
On that note, like my goal for this year is I wanted to hit about 5 or 6 Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Because I just feel that I need the experience. I need that, more experience. I need to be around the judges. A lot of judges who are more experienced than I am. Feel to learn from them. But the problem is to be able to be on staff at 5 or 6 Grand Prix, I can't just apply to 5 or 6 Grand Prix.
That's a very good point, yeah.
So that's
because your expectation is you will probably be declined for some
I figure
percentage
I'm probably 70% to get accepted. So that means, 7 out of 10 of those, so that means I have to apply to maybe 8 or 9 to be able to be accepted at 5 or 6 of them. So that's something that I have kind of found. And then what happens all of a sudden if I get accepted more than I expected,
Right.
Because I hit my quota already? Or,
I've seen that. Unfortunately, I got an email from another RC because a judge in my region applied to his GP and then said, "Oh, thanks for accepting me, but I can't go because I got accepted to the other GP on that weekend." So he applied to both of them. That's not cool.
Do we have any metrics on number of GPs it takes to get to L3?
Not yet. The number of GPs it takes to get to L3. That's a good question. That's going to be in my continuing research. Like I said, I've only just started, and we have better numbers on events as well, like event attendance through judge apps. So that's going to be part of my continuing research, is to take a look into that. Take a look into how many individuals are attending, how many in a row, et cetera, et cetera. Taz?
Kevin, I think that number is going to be skewed, to be perfectly honest. It's double the measure of GPs in the past. I don't think that metric is necessarily.
It's a problem we'll have to look into. I mean, I'll tell you, when I went from L2 to L3, I worked 1, 2, 3, 4 GPs GPs, I think 3 Pro Tours and US Nationals, maybe 5 GPs, so 8 or 9 professional level events. And because I strongly believe that because they were spaced out, I was able to take time to reflect, get feedback from people. That's how I made L3. And I know some of you guys like blow those numbers away, right? But probably I think you're not getting as much out of every individual event. But one interesting trend is talking about reviews and not getting enough reviews. I think there's now a trend that individual reviews are becoming better. And this is something I'm going to keep doing research on because I only have 2 test cases that I compiled information on. You guys all know Joe Weisenberg? Yeah? Great guy. Holy shit. Work on presents. Like we have this talk about presents, and I did not see you there.
Very appropriate.
So Joe and I are very enthusiastic about feedback and reviews, so we talk a lot. And is this okay? Yeah. Okay, great. So I compiled some information. So first off, the most interesting thing is with Joe is he is the first L3 advancement from the class of 2012, by which I mean you made L2 in 2012. So congratulations to him on that. And I hope there are more of you to come. But at the same time, he is a very interesting case study for me because he is the new generation. He has come in after the L3 process, L3 advancement process was refined and cemented by Jeff Morrow. And the review thing was set like 10 reviews. And now I think that was kind of a beginning of the trend here going on. So we talked earlier, the average reviews received for someone passing L3 was 31, right? So Joe, his number yesterday was 18. So that is lower than the average. I believe it will start to be but the nature of the reviews received. So
it might also be useful to look at something like reviews written or reviews received per year. Because someone who's been L3 for 2 years has received as many reviews as somebody who's been L2 for 7 years.
So the average reviews received per year for a passing L3 is 11.3.
Okay, and then for him it's like about 8 then?
For Joe it was 10.6. So a little below average, but yes, very good point. It was countered by the fact that he passed very quickly. And by the way, for those of you interested, the average number of days it takes for someone to go from L2 to L3 is 841. So keep that in mind. That's actually one of the reasons that I personally advocated for the hard 1 year limit on, you have to be L2 for 1 year as part of the pre-requirements for L3 because the numbers bear that out. Like it's very hard. You don't just go become an L3 immediately. It takes some time to get the necessary experience and the feedback.
Do you have numbers on how many, what the average number of L3 gets once you go through your shoot? Because that number has got to be incredibly low.
So Adam asked for the average number of reviews received by an L3 after they pass. Because there is this trend where after you make L3, no one reviews you anymore. Because why do you need it? You're L3, right? Not true. Please, by all means, guys, review L3s because we still want to improve. We still want feedback. L3 is not this plateau. Okay, I'm constantly improving, constantly looking for ways to become a better judge and to become a different judge, like to try different things just to see if I like it. I've learned so much over the years, and I'm going to continue to learn. So, average. So the average. Okay. So I only have information for the year after they make L3. The average review is actually 10.3. But
It's probably not changed.
yeah, it might have changed, and it may be, you know, the second year after, like, there's probably a downward curve. Research will continue. And in fact, if you are interested in helping, if you are a statistician and you want to give me more information on how to refine these, I would appreciate it because I am an amateur. Like, my background is from being a big fantasy baseball geek and loving numbers and always looking for ways to see what numbers mean. So I don't actually have a background in statistical research, so if you could help me with that, I would love it. So we're talking about Joe. He was a little bit below average in reviews received, but you know, he made it to L3. Why? I took a look at his reviews and just did a down and dirty word count, right? Because I was trying to figure out, is there a different nature to the quality of the reviews? Caveat, higher word count does not mean it is better necessarily, right? We have to say that because otherwise you guys are going to put in like very, 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 very good every time. That's not what we're doing here, right? But as a general trend, I think we can agree that at a certain point, you know, like more words do matter. You are saying something substantive in those words, I hope. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. So I took a look at Joe's. So actually, this is from when he made L2 to when he paneled last year at GP Oakland and didn't pass. So he actually only had 13 received at that point. And he's actually commented that he's gotten so much more feedback as part after failing, right? That he got 5 more reviews in a short amount of time, and they were mostly from higher level judges. So that was the final push, right? It really helped you out. But from L2 to his panel fail, 13 reviews, the average word count of the reviews was 857. Oh, I should have had you guess. Anyway. Fine. No more guessing. Guess my weight.
157.
So when I made L3, I received 25 reviews from L2 to L3. The average word count of those was 251. So that's what I'm saying is that the characteristics of reviews I think is changing. And you can blame me for that because I am a wordy bastard and I have taught a generation of wordy bastards. David Zimmett, his mentor, is my direct descendants in terms of wordiness. So Joe has received Joe received a 2,000-word L3 recommendation from David Zimmett. So yes, numbers will continue to need to be refined because there's some outliers here. But that wasn't the only 2,000-word review you got. Oh, well, this one is your self-review. So he wrote a 2,000-word self-review. Doesn't have to be that long, you guys. Trust me. These are very, very strange outliers. But like it's still like the other reviews, 600, 800, 600, 500, 500, 600. Like those are substantive reviews. And the thing is, I was very interested in this because the reviews I received, 100, 80, 200, 90. Some of them were still good. Some of them still top me because they were summary. Remember, guys, that is the most important thing. The review is a summary of what we talk about with each other in an event. Adam Shaw wrote one of these. It was from a 2-on-1. Remember this? I think U.S. Nationals. We did a 2-on-1, and we had a fantastic talk. He basically his review was like bullet points. And that's fine because I have a good enough memory that seeing those bullet points, like it puts me back in the moment. The tears, the crying. It was a very good talk, but having the review afterwards, even a brief bullet point, very important for me. I can still look back in that and remember the things we talked about. Remember why we talked about this. That's why reviews are important. Like that is one of the best ways that they're important. So,
really quick, one thing about reviews that people tend to do this like kind of like they're two-factor, right? Like it's twofold. Why do you write a review? And that's like do it to tell the person that they need to do something or they need to do something good. And you get a review on your staff card, right? But what Riki's, I think, pointing out that there's a bunch of competing interests in the review process. There's a bunch of they use it for staffing now. They use it, for advanced, etc.
Okay, so the event registration is $40.
That's important.
You say $40
lots and lots
until
of reasons why you need a review, not just for these
and then it's 45.
one or two things. Right? You can have your stats. And like I never wrote reviews. I don't like reviews. I don't think it's useful in the long run. But you can still give impact with just, hey, we talked about this for 2 hours the other day. Here's 3 things I think you can improve on. And that'll still help with all the reasons why we're
yeah, and that's one thing about these. Just kidding. It's one thing about these stats is that when I went through the process, I got these short reviews, but they were backed. Backed by these amazing people who talked to me for hours. It wasn't sad. It was a 2-on-1. It was you and Chris Richter. I had another event where Carlos and Nick Seth. And that's the other thing about all the jamming of the events, the schedules, continuous events. We don't get the chance to talk either as much. That's a problem. So yeah, the nature of the reviews themselves. I think this might be a thing, is that some people like me and Zimmet and Joe maybe are putting more into reviews because we're unable to have these talks. Maybe we should discuss this later, but looking back at my reviews, just because the word counts were lower, they still have a lot of substance. They were very important to me in my development. And I think reviews are important in general. So Chad, you had a question?
So, I mean, we're talking sort of about word count as not a perfect metric, but some type of metric for like quality of reviews.
Yeah.
Like, given you started on this yesterday, do you have any ideas of like other ways to sort of apply sabermetrics to review quality, right? Other than word count, if we're not focusing on length, what are things that we can try to identify as like aspects to shoot for in our reviews? Or have you thought about that? Or
I don't know if it's aspects that we should shoot for. I will say, like, I think something that's important is multiple reviews from someone. I've mentioned this elsewhere, but Jeff Morrow and I had a relationship where every event we worked together, pretty much, we would review each other. PTQ pre-release, back in the day we had those giant regional pre-releases. We'd review each other there, if it happened to be a Grand Prix. And that kind of continuous feedback, because again we would talk at the event too and give each other feedback, but the continuous levels of feedback I think are very important. That might be something to look at as well, trends, because you guys, Chad and Joe are both from San Diego, and I think you guys review each other fairly frequently, right? multiple times. So if you work with someone like that, that I think is important as well, because you can get a curve of understanding each other. You know, if you go to a Grand Prix and I am team leading, and let's say Alex is on my team for the first time ever, like I'm just meeting him, I might be able to write a review, but it might not be that deep. If I work 2 PTQs with him and then a Grand Prix, then I'm going to have a lot more I can talk to him about, because I've seen him at multiple events, I can see friends, or I might be able to compile some more information. So that could be an area of expanded research. Andre?
So on that front, like what I was saying, as far as quality, obviously quality is going to be qualitative. It's hard to quantify quality. But I've worked in service industry for a really long time, always kind of like involved in basically just in like trying to make things better, and that's something that I strive for personally, at least, is like always trying to think self-improvement, trying to see like, or even not just myself, like other ways to make things better. But one thing that I've found very important is to be specific. Like a statement, something like, this person would do well to work on their communication, is much less helpful than a statement like, when something needs to be done, this person needs to identify exactly what needs to be done and tell that thing to somebody, assign that task to somebody.
Yes. So be specific details, and this is why me personally, my reviews are longer and they have a higher word count. It's because I am a storyteller by nature. I write articles. I did a lot of casual fiction writing in my high school and casual days, so I have a background in writing. So when I write a review, it's more, there's a story there. When I describe a ruling, I really try to add everything in. Like, this is what happened. These were the cards. We stepped away from the table and talked about it. We went back to the table. You interacted with the player in this way. So you don't have, again, like, I am an outlier. Don't follow my example, but learn from it and apply what you can. And details, specific details, are an important example, because I've talked to people who have gotten a review and they said, so Riki, you were at this event with me, this guy wrote this review and said this. I have no idea what he's talking about. And so that right there is not helpful. So make sure that the subject has some idea of what you're talking about, again, by talking to them about it first. But then also details, because 5 years later, some of the reviews I received, I can look back and the details are there and I can remember them. And that's an important thing. Patrick?
Just as a kind of addition to the reviews have to be memorable in some fashion. Like, you have to be able to look at them and say, oh, like, yeah, this is what they were talking about. This is what this means. I wonder if there is some correlation between the time it takes us to write our reviews after an event to both from a quality perspective and from a permanence perspective. I mean, like, sometimes it's taken me 3, 4, 5 weeks just to get to writing a review. And I know what these notes mean, but I don't know if I can explain exactly what the reasoning behind, what the benefit behind these statements is going to be.
My handwriting gets so bad sometimes I can't read my own notes. And that's a problem. Like, if it takes too long for you to review those notes and try to write a review from them, A, you might not remember the specifics. B, you might not be able to read your own handwriting. I actually did experience this. I did a PTQ in November. I just finished a review for one of my judges on staff 2 weeks ago. And I actually had to email him and say, so this ruling, I wrote down some parts, I don't remember the rest of the parts. And he remembered, luckily, and we were able to figure it out and hash it out. But yeah, that's important too. So I'm going to stop now because we are reaching the point where if you have additional questions, anyone, please ask them. Otherwise, I want to make sure that we can transition to the next seminar in a timely fashion. John?
Is there any fun or any process for getting
Sorry?
Is there a process or individual such as
ask your review by the non-recipient. So you basically want to review.
Can I say, hey Riki, check out all the reviews I've written and tell me if you think I'm hitting this.
You want to review
Reviewer.
Yeah, is there any
who reviews the reviewer? Jeremy Granat, and I'm not saying that. So Jeremy is a level 3 judge from Switzerland, and he is my European counterpart on this as in David de Iglesia. He is very interested in having a project like that, a review tutor. We are putting together a proposal and working out the details, so something may come soon. But I'm glad to know that you're interested in something like that.
Just as a suggestion for what John's saying, if you're writing a review, share it with someone else, like the recipient. Obviously, depending on the content of the review, you might want to make sure it's confident. I've had that pretty helpful to do people in the past, getting someone like Riki or David, the review a read over because they'll let me more familiar with the person that I'm reviewing than I am.
Share with someone you trust that you feel is good at reviews, but also share with someone who was at the event and maybe saw some of the same things. Say, does this jive with your perspective? Like, do you agree with these sentiments? Like, I've certainly done that.
Back in the day, you used to be able to do anonymous reviews.
Yeah,
Is there
Steven.
still some way? Is there still some way to just for instance, find something that's sensitive to say to somebody that I maybe something that they did I thought maybe was,
You need to stand behind it. You need to stand behind the statement.
If you have a concern about another judge and you're worried about something like their reaction to it or something like that, email your RC.
I mean, not that I have, I'm just,
Yeah, no, I understand. But if reviews and feedback are about improvement. If Tom says, you need to be able to say you need to be able to, look someone in the eye, whether real or figuratively, and say, these things were not great, you need to improve on them, this is how. That's important.
I'm taking control.